looks good, looks good. Alright, getting stuff started here. A minute or two late, so we'll cut through some of the ads here real quick. Sound good, everyone? Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Hey, Lando, sound okay?
At least here. Yeah.
Just want to check on sound there.
No pressure. I hope I can.
I would worry.
Interest.
We're gonna have plenty of stuff to discuss. Oh man, yeah. I guarantee we'll go off some tangents. There's no doubt about it.
That's the
sure.
idea. Yep.
Yeah.
Who knows where our path will?
Exactly.
Our adventure path will fall.
Yep.
Second here.
Yeah, you still got 8 minutes, anyways.
Yeah.
Plenty of time
Plenty of time.
to pick my nose without anybody seeing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. You have to take care of all the goop that comes out. I did that a minute ago, so I didn't dare to do it even now. So I.
Sweet.
So Anna, I got a little bit of bad news.
Oh.
no.
Oh dear.
So, I didn't get a chance because Frank Menser was all over the place on at Page and the con I was at, right?
Oh, I
Sent to
just
me.
finished watching your 1 hour stream there, actually.
Oh, thank you.
They were great. Yeah.
I
Yeah, well,
appreciate
thank
that.
you for mentioning both Anna and I multiple times.
Of course.
Yeah.
Alex Antiquitous was talking with Frank. He would not let go the BJ incident still.
No, that's the problem. He needs to move on from that. He needs to understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, he said Alex said he brought it up multiple times. So,
Oh,
And
what's
the weird
this?
thing, it was an incident that happened. Was it like 6-7 years
yeah,
ago or
during
something like
the
that?
height of the Me Too and everything.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah.
Higher than Me Too, and the problem was that he engaged it. If he just stayed out of it to begin with, so then he wouldn't have been a problem.
Right, exactly. But you know,
It was him engaging in it that was in a kind of in slightly or very insensitive way, depending on how you see it, and then it escalated from there, and he still hasn't dropped it. So yeah. And it was the same week that he launched his Kickstarter for the his setting thing. So it was the worst possible week.
Yeah.
Was this something somebody said, or?
Well, yeah, it was one of the someone when it was people yelling at each other on the internet, and he got engaged in it, and it took off from there, so to speak. So yeah, it was internet rage wars that just went on, and he got engaged in it, thought he was doing a good thing,
So,
but
Mike,
it turned out it was, in my opinion, just internet rage that went out of hand, so to speak. So yeah,
it's all in the past.
it was a sad story.
Skagith
that-
for the raid. Thanks, Skagith.
Yeah, sad story.
We're not talking
and,
about monks tonight. Don't worry.
Yep.
That we're not talking about. Thanks, Dale, for the resub.
Are we voice
the
live
void.
right
Oh
now?
yeah, of course.
Beyond
Because
the
we'll talk about anything.
Oh,
Sure.
The Ark of Time.
Yeah.
I'm cutting through the ads real quick here.
Yep,
That's
that's why we have to kind of keep our language straight here. So
What's
yeah.
up, Keith?
Oh, okay.
We're good. We're good. I like.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask more later. But
Yeah. We can.
Hey,
do that.
Mike, how's it going?
Hello.
Mike, I think we're gonna do the first time. I pronounce it Rennie, whatever the hell you pronounce it. I think we're gonna do that on Legends of Lore on Wednesday.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we're gonna try. Les is trying to get me some background stuff to help. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good discussion.
I've not done a whole lot with Rennie.
No, I mean, mostly if you're in and around Greyhawk City, that tends to be when you do stuff, right? You know?
Yeah, but obviously I've done a lot of Greyhawk City stuff, but I've never. I mean, I've used them.
Right.
And particularly when they've come into certain modules, like the Falcon series, for example. There's
Right.
so many
Yep.
characters in that.
Expedition of Ruins of Greyhawk, too.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Now
And the
I've
gourd books.
never
Yeah.
Well done.
run. I've never run expedition.
Oh.
The
Yeah, I ran that right before I started live streaming.
Eric's book. I've never read it. I've
awesome.
never run it. Ruins of Greyhawk.
Yeah, Expedition of Ruins of Greyhawk. Yep.
But the original ones, yes, I've run the original Ruins of Greyhawk. Yeah.
Looks like we already got a hype train. You guys are amazing. Yeah, we'll tear that Band-Aid off, Mike, and if it goes bad, so what? Right?
Oh, which Band-Aid is he going to rip off?
Yeah,
The
maybe-
Rennie Band-Aid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for the. I'm looking back at the. Thanks for the congrats, Mike. Yeah, 25 years of not being able to lose control of so many websites from the past. People lost control of their websites.
Yeah.
Whatever reasons.
Yeah. I've changed URL 3 to this, my third, I think. So,
Is it?
Yeah, I had a kind of a weird one because it was just like the hosting that came with my ISP, so it was a weird one, and then it was GH Maps that I now use more for the technical back end, and then I put nfbmeyer.com just because I thought, yeah.
Well, think of all those GeoCities sites that went by.
Oh yeah, they were like millions of them that went bust at the same time when they just closed it down, but most of them were not. I guess people that used them for something have hopefully migrated it somewhere else.
Even with me crashing everything beforehand, we were 1 minute early. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So,
Well, thanks, Sudrak. I saw you sitting in the front row of Jay's
yeah, with his
stream.
family. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, with the kids. Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Michael was there, and Michael gave us a bunch of cool stuff for giveaways for the show from Frog Out Games and for the fundraiser while we were there for Frog Out Games. So, congrats to him, and thank you so very much. Hey, Mystical, good to see you. So, let's kick off this Sunday night with a celebration and a discussion. So, I don't even know where we should begin. So let's just begin with Anna and I introducing the legendary Denis Maldin Tetreault, right, Denis?
Yeah.
Who's been on the
how's
show
it going?
multiple times. Who's been on multiple
Yeah.
times. We discussed.
I've been here over a half dozen for sure over the years. Along with some great guests like Len and Jim Ward. And
That's right. You were on like one of the first Ask the Expert shows I think we had with Len. I think that was an awesome discussion. You know, and I know one thing Dennis and I have in common. We have our love for specialty priests, which is great. And but beyond that, there's a whole story, and I want to share that if you don't know, you're going to tonight. And let me hit over this first and why we're here for the main. Now we're like a month off because it was ended 2023, but welcome to Maldin's Greyhawk. So, Denis, let's go way back into the 90s and tell us what was going on during that time frame, going end of second edition before third, and everyone's getting websites put up, and what happens and how you came.
Well, I mean, I go way back in the Greyhawk community to the old rec.games.dnd.
Wow.
You can't even call them forum news groups. They were called news groups. Right?
Yeah.
And people posting questions there in just purely text-based interface. Right. The internet was barely alive back then. We're talking mid 90s. And email. I used a program called Kermit to access.
Oh my.
I remember
email.
Kermit. Yeah.
That was all done through the university's server, and then people were running. You could only access stuff through Blackboard or BB services, bulletin board services, through FTP sites. Right, so there were a couple
to write
of
these scripts and whatever. It was terribly difficult.
And it was also a time when, say, TSR had a more draconian, and it was TSR back then, a draconian internet persona where anybody posted anything was subject to cease and desist letters.
Yep.
And that drove a lot of the community underground to these secret FTP sites where you could download stuff that people had written about Greyhawk or whatever. There were different FTP sites.
It's not pirated stuff. It's stuff you wrote for your own adventures.
It was original, but they didn't allow
exactly.
anything that mentioned any of their IP.
Yep.
And so there were a couple of these secret sites, and a couple of us kind of got invited to join other groups. And so there were kind of two active secret groups during this time. There was the GEC, I even forget what the, let me see if I actually, I think in my Who is Maldin, I named some of these groups. The,
I was hoping on your site you still had a Greyhawk web ring link just to press the button and see what would happen.
I think for the longest time it was still there. I only took it down recently.
We need to restart the Greyhawk web ring. You and me, we can start it, then we can see if it branches out. Because with all this stuff that goes on now, it might be good to go back to the old days. Yeah.
I just, like last month, I was on, I think it was Grodog's website, and he still has the web ring
link.
Link
there you go.
On his, so you can go to Grodog's website, which is a great site. But yeah, the GEC group, I guess I don't have that. And then there was the Greytalk original listserv that Gary ran out of MIT.
That was the email.
That was just pure email, nothing but pure email.
Except that was the first contact I had with the Greyhawk community. I subscribed to it. I never replied or anything. I just read it and archived it.
I still have all of those emails archived.
I have.
Oh my gosh,
tons of them archived too. Yep.
Then we started with the IRC chat, which was the Thursday night group, the Greyhawks. IRC
I was there. Times, but that would now be talking 2003, 4, or something like that.
That was going on.
At least that's when I
that was going on to 2018.
Yeah, but it started 19. Well, I'm on the wrong computer to look up that.
Oh yeah, but you probably.
I think it goes back to 1997.
Okay,
wow. The list.
Yep.
And so it was tough sharing material, and then TSR they fired Rob Rep and and got more accepting of fan created work, as long as you weren't posting their stuff, right? Like as long as you weren't posting copyrighted stuff, they were okay with fan stuff. And so that's when now websites had become more common. Websites started popping up all over the place, and so I wanted a spot to post my stuff, because a lot of us had been posting things through the listserv, and that's kind of a limited. And once it's been posted, any new people can't really get access to the old stuff. And anyways, so a bunch of us in the IRC channel chat we're talking about. Now I think several of us have slightly different memories of how it all happened.
It's a long time ago. Yeah,
my memory is probably a little different than Gary's, Holian, but there were a couple. I think the original Spelljammer site, which I think was called the Mimir, came up. I think that was one of the first. And so I came on to IRC, and it says, damn it, we need to start a Greyhawk website, a hub site where we can have a communal thing. And so a bunch of us all are like, yeah, we should do this. And so Gary said, well, okay, I'm going to start planning, to get a URL, to get a hoster and all of that. And it started dragging on and months turned into years. And I said, well, I want to get my stuff up. So I said, I'm going to create my own website. So 1998, I create Maldin's Greyhawk. And started posting some of the original material. At the time, kind of the posts that I had kind of been known more for were like the artifact stuff, the codex. Samwise used to bug me all the time about me claiming that the codex was responsible for everything in Greyhawk history. But yeah, what was some of the other earlier things that I had up? The City of Melcott went up pretty early. Because at that point I was working on my master's at the University of Rochester and had evenings like to do stuff, like to do whatever. So that's when I started designing the City of Melcott, when I was in my own apartment in Rochester, New York. And so that was one of the early things that went up as well. Then eventually Gary finally got his act together and built Cannon Fire and tried to bug me to,
that was like 2001, 2, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, so you're going to move all of your stuff over to Cannon Fire now, right? And this is, my website has been out a couple of years. It's gotten pretty popular all by its lonesome. I think I'm going to keep melcott.com as my own and keep my stuff there. So I think he got a little pissed off that I didn't move all my stuff over to Cannon Fire, but so that's kind of the original birth of the website. In 1998 as well. When the City of Greyhawk box set came out, which was that 86?
City of Greyhawk is 92, I think.
No.
Free City Greyhawk?
Yeah.
89. 89. I'm guessing.
89. Okay. Oh,
yep.
89.
So when it came out, the day that I opened that box, and I bought it within the first week that it was released, I decided that I hated the map and redrew the map.
Yeah, well, yes, you did.
And so I posted about that on the forums, and there were a whole bunch of people that contacted me asking if I could send them copies of my map. And so there was about 15 people that that's version 2 of it.
Right, yeah. I know. I'm going to get version 1, which I have right here.
Yeah. But it was all hand drawn at that point. And what I did was I went out and I got, and it was a 2 foot by 3 foot, like it was the same size as the original map. I went out and I got it white printed, which is kind of the reverse of blueprinting. When people generate copies of blueprints for building houses and that, there was a service you could go to. Not so much now that everybody does everything digitally, but you could go to these places, and it was the only place you could get photocopies back then of anything that was really big, right? So people would send me shipping, and the cost of doing the white print, which was only $10 or $15 or something, I forget what it was, and I sent out about a dozen or so versions of the map. And so one of the places that I sent it to was to trying to remember his name now. Dave was at the time the editor of Dragon magazine. I don't know, somebody will have. I have a really bad Swiss cheese memory.
Not one of the Sutherlands, right?
Yeah, but he was editor in the late 90s.
Okay.
For Dragon. And I sent it to him and I asked him if he'd be interested. Well, no, maybe that was 96. Asked him if he'd be interested in having it as a poster insert in Dragon magazine. Well, what nobody knew at the time was this was the time of TSR's printer problems.
Oh yeah, when they started getting into serious trouble a few years before they
and
went
they couldn't
bankrupt.
afford to print anything. Now, obviously, Dave didn't tell me any of this, but he just says, "No, I'm sorry, we can't use it." And so it didn't go anywhere. At that point, there was Noel Graham had started this group called Vision at Work, which I think Anna was originally part of.
Yeah, I
Watcher.
think that was the early on.
Yeah. And so he got a copy of my original map, and he says, "Well, because he worked for, he was a building inspector or something originally, was what his job was. He had access to a big scanner, which was a rare thing back then as well."
Oh, I remember we emailed about that back then. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he says, "Well, I can send me a copy of your map.
This is like 2004, 4-ish, something like that.
No, this was
it earlier?
Yeah, it was about 98 as well.
Okay, well,
it was shortly after.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Yep.
And so he sent me a digitized copy of my hand-drawn map.
Yeah.
And so using that, over 1999, I created the base of what you now know as the original digitized map in Photoshop of the city of Greyhawk, right?
Man.
And so my website is relatively new at that point, right? It was a year old. And so I thought the map looked pretty cool. And so I knew Eric Mona had been invited to start. Well, he had taken over Polyhedron and was on the verge of also taking Dragon and Dungeon magazines as well. And I sent him this digitized map and said, "Well," he says, I'm going to put this on the website, Eric, but I wanted you to see it first to see if there's anything that you think you could use it for before I make it public." And he immediately responded with, "Do not put it on your website. Let me get back to you. I got an idea." Well, now this is when he was creating Living Greyhawk.
Yes.
Right. And so he got the idea to, well, we're going to put this as a poster insert in Living Greyhawk Journal.
Journal 2.
Use it to help launch Living Greyhawk itself in 2000 with 3E, right? And so that's the story of how the map didn't get posted to my website, but then became the poster insert, and the rest is history as far as that is concerned. But yeah, eventually I made a promise to Eric that I would not post a high-res version of the map to my website. So I always, for the longest time, I had a pretty low-res version until long after Living Greyhawk was done. Actually, by the time I finally did put a higher resolution version, and now I have version 2 now with Anna's background, which makes it look much nicer than the kind of flat background that the original.
A little bit. We'll see if we can make it even better in the future. Yep.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And
it's an iterative work.
I've converted over to using this one as much as possible when I'm in this Free City Greyhawk. So, and there's a lot of cool locations that are added. Not all of them are. It's not the whole city, but there's a lot described in Living Greyhawk journals. I think 1 and 2. Or is it 2 and 3?
Oh, yeah.
I forget. Yeah. So.
Well, no, actually, it was 2, 3, and 4. There were at least 3 articles.
2, 3, and 4. Okay. adding
think it's
into the
2, 3,
Artisan
and 4.
Quarter, Clarksburg,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the Old City. I think those three, was it?
yeah.
I know it was Clarksburg and
I
the Artisan
forget
Quarter.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, certainly are. Yeah, certainly those two.
Yep.
And they were Living Greyhawk Journal articles, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
plan was originally to continue the articles, but that kind of died out, and other stuff was happening in the background that Eric couldn't talk about, obviously, at the time. But the original plan was for Eric, Mona, Gary Holian, and myself to expand the city articles to other cities of Greyhawk eventually. And thus was born the kernel of the Iron Gate project as well, because we figured that would be one of the good ones to use. And so because of our designs on Iron Gate, when Eric designed Living Greyhawk, he purposefully excluded Iron Gate from the list of regions that had a regional triad. So Iron Gate was kept core because we originally had plans for it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in the end. But
Gary.
At least it didn't get destroyed in Living Greyhawk due to that.
Well, yeah,
he saved it from whatever calamity
You're right.
they might have
we
thrown
can continue,
that way.
Yeah, we can continue playing around with Iron Gate, and there is no Wizards of the Coast product to clash with. It's so,
like someone
in that sense, you're right.
Yeah, it was like someone reminded me on email, I think it was yesterday or something, that 10 was wiped out by a sea of dust. Ethereal invasion killed whatever.
Oh, the ethereal invasion.
So there was always something that every living Greyhawk realm was devastated one way or the other, almost. Yeah.
Well, so the triads were for each of the individual regions really were
to do something fun.
A reason. They were under a lot of pressure to keep things interesting and fresh.
Yeah, I can totally understand why it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and so no, I do too. I don't fault them for it. I mean, I think some of the execution on a lot of them were not what I would have done, but
same here.
But they were in charge of their regions, and whatever. It's everybody's, as we've said many times, and as something that Jay has talked about constantly, including on your stream yesterday.
Thank you.
Greyhawk really belongs to everybody, and everyone has their own designs, their own ideas, and that's fine. That's what Gary Gygax always hoped for, what he always envisioned for the campaign world, is for DMs to make it their own.
So Dennis, thank you for saying the kind words. I did my best setting up there at Page.
The streams
was good. The
streams were great for considering the circumstances.
Okay.
They were good.
No, late this afternoon I watched your yesterday's stream.
Cool.
Awesome.
So
it was cool. I didn't see the other one, but
the other one happens twice. So I did it at the wrong time, an hour early for only a few people.
That's why there were two videos. I wondered when I came in, there's already a video, and then there's a live stream going on.
So I did it a second time. So
so I jumped into the live stream and I first saw the emails. So
All right. So we may have, if Troy has two of these, we may have just found one of our top donator gifts for St. Jude's. He's one of these for a choice. Holy schmolies, everyone. That would be awesome, Troy, if you do. Thank you.
Now, I found out some years ago that there was apparently somebody, and I have no idea who it is. I suspect it's somebody, I think my gut is it's somebody in England, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But and probably somebody who worked for TSR, maybe, I don't know. But there's somebody that apparently got a hold of scores of copies of LGJ2 with the map, and we're eBaying them one at a time,
for like
over and over and over again. I noticed that one time that they had far more copies than I had ever seen, and they were just, it was a continual
I guess they got
stream
the whole shipment going to the UK,
Well,
and then
Jason
TSR folded,
Jason
and it
Zavardo
ended
did
up
that all the
somewhere.
time with a lot
He
of Castle Zagging
bought all,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. He
Oh,
bought
yeah.
So
stuff from.
very
Yeah.
cool. All right.
So for a while they were, it seemed like they were flooding eBay for.
Well, Dennis, it took me 2 years to get my copy, and I made a deal. I made a deal with someone. Yep.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Now
absolutely.
I get the rare nowadays. Yep.
Yeah. Dennis was one of the reviewers of the Larry Griffin Gazetteer. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Dennis shows up in the pictures. Dennis shows up all over the place. Dennis is like the behind the scenes. I'm not going to go work for anyone, but I'm going to do all this cool stuff.
I was the secret advisor for 3 different triads as well in Living Greyhawk. I was never part of Living Greyhawk. I never participated as a player, and I was never on any of the triads or anything like that. But I was kind of an advisor to several of them, including the Yeomanry, which is where
So how many calamities did you stave off by telling them not to do it?
A few.
Okay, good. Good.
Gary, we have that to discuss. Yeah, so I almost, I'm not going to go there completely. I almost equate like Maldin's the 90s version of what Len was in the 70s. Len never worked for TSR, right?
There are a lot of similarities that way.
Yeah, but he did all this stuff. No,
exactly.
No, he never worked.
Len told he never worked for TSR. He never played in Gary's games. He was one of Gary's gaming friends, and because he lived in Chicago and between Chicago and Lake Geneva, there was back in the 70s. There was a little bit of distance, so to speak, and
Gary Holing is right there. He's the guy who put Melcott into the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. Because that was his section. It was Gary wrote that section of the Gazetteer.
Awesome.
And so he put in the Sons of March Lantern. And
here's your map of Melcott, just starting it off.
It was with Eric's, blessing, of course, because he was controlling the project. But
cool.
Gary's the guy, the one who actually wrote that text for.
This your first map of Melcott, or is this a later map, or?
That was my original local area map. It's only ever appeared on the website.
Okay.
Yep. That's the one I used as a base for when I mapped that area on my map. So I'm trying to make it match as close as possible.
You can see my predilection to geology with all the meanders and the
that's So I tried to
I try to make it geographically real.
And then I had my Bryce kind of algorithms that fractals that they had a life of their own. So it was I will now when I get to it with World Machine or Gaia or something more, I can be way more precise. So
one of the things, once you get into the Iron Gate area, we should
have your update
coalesce or get together about the Iron Gate map, because
so we need to tweak that terrain. So
by the way, there, Dennis, Frankly P Live, woohoo #1 professor. Is that one of your students? Frankly P Live.
Some of my students from this semester are here.
Oh, well, that's
awesome.
That's great.
That's great.
Somehow Dungeons and Dragons came up in my lectures this past.
I wonder why.
Nowadays, so
and a couple of them we played D&D, and so we had some great and Tyson and
there it is.
Those.
Yep.
We had some great conversations after the class was over about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys could make it.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that map is for the St. Jude fundraiser as a giveaway, because I guarantee I'll go in the top 2. So, because everyone wants this map in the community now, and they just can't get it. Yep. So, the Troy map will be. But we have a standard D&D giveaway tonight. Yeah, that's going to be for fundraiser. And here it is, to the west of the Hold of the Sea Princes out there.
Yep.
So.
It's one of the hidden away little realms that is, you found one of the secret little corners of the Flannies that is really cool. And it's in a really cool place too. A lot of interesting stuff around, and still is kind of tucked away in its own little corner there. It's great.
Yep. Absolutely. So I think can we say that yours is the first Fanon to get onto the map, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when Eric put together the artwork and that for the map for the original, I think it was the map of the Flonesse, the brown one that came with the
that was the Terlizzi map, I think. Yeah.
He put Melcott on that map. So technically, I think that was the first time that it appeared.
It might be the only fan content that ever made it into
I
official.
think it was. No, I think you're right. I think that's the only fan content that made it onto the world map, right?
Yeah, that has been designed by
there.
Someone an official commission or hired.
And then when Eric got the big 4-part map.
Yeah, it was on there too.
Oh yeah, first there was a smaller version. That is not the Terlizzi map. I'm not sure who did that one. And then they did the Paizo Hawk map that did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of different stuff on there. Melcott was one of the things that made it onto that.
Yeah.
But Melcott actually, I'm pretty sure I don't think I'd be able to find it.
Lazzaretti. So thank you. Yeah. Correction. Yeah. Rob Lazzaretti. Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He did I'm not sure he did the first one. That was the small one, but he definitely did the 4-part big one in the Paizo Hawk era. Yeah. He did that one. Yep.
All right. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Arneson's Blackmore's.
No.
Gary's
no,
making
it was
fun
not
there.
because he was a co-creator and he had his names in the D&D books and stuff.
He's making fun, but
yeah.
Speaking of making fun, how many websites do you know has a key to how to get around it? Okay, so look at this.
Should have that, and
look at the size of this.
Somebody once told me that image maps were a dinosaur of the past. I love it.
I love it.
I love that.
I should get
to be able to see the entire website in one view and click on anything and go there instantly.
That's the
I think that's much better than fancy left-hand menus, and so. So I know my website looks like it comes from the 1990s. Well, it does come from the 1990s. But it's part of its appeal.
Beginning, I thought it looked terrible. now it's actually nostalgia.
Right.
So because it looks like.
Also, I'm far too lazy to rebuild the website to something.
No, it's got its charm. I got a couple questions.
Sure.
Who invited you to the Greyhawk Web Ring?
Oh,
were you invented it? Oh, you the founder of it?
And I don't even remember who it was. Somebody created the Webhawk, the Greyhawk Web Ring, just before I got onto it.
Okay.
And we have to explain to younger viewers that web rings were a thing back then.
It
was popular. There were
web
rings for all sorts
of
stuff.
Kind of topic. You press a button, it randomly would send you. Somewhere else.
Yeah, well, you could either choose random or it would go in sequence.
You can go. Yeah, you can pick.
You can visit the entire ring.
Yeah,
which is why it was called a ring, right? But somebody created it originally. It wasn't me, and immediately it lost control of it, and I think whoever it was just lost interest in it, and so I had to actually contact webring.org to be able to take control of it, to fix it, to remanage it again.
Yeah.
So so I was for most of its time, I was the manager of the WebRing. And then I started a parallel WebRing, which was the Living Greyhawk WebRing. And they were linked, but they were originally two separate rings, in that the Living Greyhawk WebRing was going to only have the triad sites, the official sites, right? So the idea was to be able to go to all the triad sites on the ring. And you can click on the ring list. You didn't have to navigate that kind of clunky way. But for a while, I got maybe about a third of the triad sites.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Some of the triad sites never ever had official websites, which was a problem with the players, I think. But others just didn't want to bother with with it.
Yeah.
So I was the ringmaster of both the Living Greyhawk web ring and the Greyhawk web ring. And so when the Greyhawk web ring started dying, I mean, a lot of the sites were just disappearing, like the GeoCities sites, for example. There was a bunch of them on the.
Yeah.
At one point, the web ring had over 70 websites on it.
Are you ready for this? Hootie's Underground.
I remember that one.
Hootie was great because it had music. Had music on it. Like, oh my God, someone has music on their site. Nick Kenney Kikemu, who had all the heraldry from Hawaii, right? Did I say that right?
Linda Kekemu, yeah.
Kekemu, yes.
Yeah.
The gnome page.
I've tried to get a hold of her since, but
she disappeared from the scene. She was very prolific early on.
She was.
I think
early 2000s.
And Joe Block may have been one of the last people to have a lot of.
You know what? I was with him the whole weekend. I should have asked him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but at one point it was over 70 websites
all leaks
altogether.
Yes, all of them. I mean, and there was great information.
And so it started. These sites kept going down and down, and I was down to 20-something sites, and it's like, well, okay, the web ring it's going to go. It's good. And so that's when I launched the Facebook group. So the Greyhawk Adventures Facebook group that I'm the admin on is the first Greyhawk Facebook group. Of course, lots of others have popped up since, and you know, the more the merrier as far as Greyhawk community is concerned. I'm perfectly, happy to have all of these other. I don't see them as competing sites, and a lot of them have slightly different kind of themes, right? But yeah. So the Facebook group kind of sprung out of the web ring, so that was the progression for that.
Awesome. Well, I know people want to hear about your campaign too, because a lot of people don't know about it that much. So we want to hear about that, and we want to hear about some really cool sites. I know you've updated some. So why don't we pick one?
Last night I posted a brand new page just for this stream.
Okay. Should we go there? Should we? I know it's Underdark, right?
Yeah, it's the yes, that one there. So I posted. I finally digitized my map of Errol High Kinlu, so it's a little bit further down.
Yep, and here's I have
that's the location map.
I have a better picture of it though, and let's bring that up instead. How's that?
There we go.
Okay. Yep.
So that exists originally as just hand drawn. Well, everything that I have started out as hand drawn. Here it is, actually. This was the original hand drawn map.
Nice.
So I scanned it and digitized it.
What year is that from?
When I first created this?
Yes.
Oh God.
82, 83?
Yeah, no, not that old.
Okay.
I think because I mean in 80, 81, 82, well, when they came out, I ran the original D series, right? The Giant Series D. We all did, right?
Absolutely.
But I hadn't created the more detailed map of the city itself at that point.
Yeah, this is the first streets in here and all. This is awesome.
So I probably did this about probably late 80s, I would think.
Okay.
The original hand-drawn map was probably
scale and yards here. Yeah.
Late 80s.
Awesome.
But yeah, but this here, the digitized version, I started 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
And created this and all of everything that you see below this, the neighborhood map, and I figured I should have something meatier. So one of my locations within the city is the Poison Shop.
Oh yeah, because they talk about that in D3.
Which is a shop that my players raided once upon a time. My main player, I think, is probably watching, although I don't know if he has a Twitch account, so he may not be able to type. Rick Esch is my main
here it is.
Player from long time.
So, this is the area inside the red box.
That's the area inside the red box.
Look at that. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. Let me blow this up a little bit. There we go. Oh, look at that.
And so the shop is the building that's right in the dead center of that map.
Right.
Krug and Heese's alembic residues.
Nice.
And so if you keep scrolling down the page, you'll see floor plans of the 3 floors and the cellar of that building.
It's color coded too by size, which is cool too. Here we go. Look at that. So it's all here on this page. Wow.
Yep. So all of these maps I created in the last 2.5 weeks.
Krug and Heese's alembic residues, ground floor.
Wow.
Nice. All detailed out. So they've been here before, your venturing group.
Yeah, they rated it. So it's not the descriptions aren't super detailed. There's a lot that GMs would have to fill out, but but they can use it as is what it is. But DMs could use the maps for whatever they want. Yeah. They could use the maps to design their own shops someplace else. Whatever. Maps are great.
This is the most, Dennis, like once again, you go above and beyond. This is the most detail I've ever seen inside the city.
There's nothing described in the city.
Nothing.
The city itself is described in verbally for a couple of pages, and a lot of that is encounters like stats on drow patrols and that. In D3, there's no detailed map of the city. There's no locations. It's just, the players that are on a mission to get to the temple eventually, right?
Yeah.
The Lulth's temple. They enter the city. They walk through the city. They get out of the city.
Yeah,
that's pretty much. That's it. That's pretty much it for the modules. But adventures back then were different than they are now.
True.
They were very bare bones. They were very abbreviated, and that's just the way it was. Things have changed.
Well, Homeland, what was it, 16 pages or something like that?
Yeah,
and that was basically a whole mini setting, and it was 16 or something pages. It was
and so there's a lot there for people to design, but it wasn't like
that's awesome.
The detail that goes into something like that.
Well, yeah.
This is not what was happening in the early 1980s. No.
Printing was and layout and all the production costs were enormous compared to before we had completely digital publishing and all that. It was very, very expensive to put in graphics and stuff like that. So per page, a lot of things were much more expensive, especially illustrations and things.
But I know another thing. You gave me a PDF that you said I had to have because the level of detail was so.
Well, no, you've shown this on your stream when you guys were talking about the Underdark.
Yes.
Right? But if you view it in a browser, that's what you see.
Right.
If you view it in a PDF viewer, each of those colored layers are separate layers that you can turn off and on.
Yep.
That's interesting because I have it in a PDF here right now, and it's not on a.
You have to. The viewer has to be capable of. Are you looking at it in Acrobat?
I would hope so because it says
you
PDF.
Need that layer function.
It says PDF. I don't think I have this on in.
You can turn on and off the layers.
Plugin
Okay.
Won't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to flip.
Wow, so you can turn them on and off. I don't know if I can do that on stream or risk doing it now and crashing.
No. But it's something that I wanted to mention that a lot of people don't realize that it is a layered PDF that you can burrow down. You can burrow down through the different layers.
That is unbelievable, and this combines
a bunch of things.
Night Below with a lot of what's going on in the D series, correct?
Yeah, so you can see right next to the word hell furnaces there.
Yep.
You kind of see a spidery section. That's where the D series is.
Okay. Yep.
The pink and purple there. Yeah, right there. And then under the word hool, all of those tunnels there, that's the night below.
Okay. Yep.
And then most of the rest of it is actually from the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide.
Oh, wow. Does it state to
So
place it here, or did you merge it?
I merged it all.
Okay.
Oh no, the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, which was, I think, a really highly underrated book. It's a
was
great
great.
book.
Yeah.
It's pure generic. It's pure generic.
Right.
There's no location information at all. But what I decided to do was, well, I wanted a detailed Underdark without having to detail the Underdark. So I took the maps and all of the different sections, and these correspond to the sections in the second half of the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide. So all of the locations that are described in there are here.
Note how Melkot has a connection to the Underdark right here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
How did
I
that
wonder
happen?
why. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Next
Okay.
door to all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I wish maybe in the future I'll be able to actually show it turning it layers on and off on stream, but I can't risk it at this point here.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah, but it's awesome still. What an awesome map. All right. Well, that's cool, and that ties in with the other Underdark history that we're discussing here. So that's a big thing. And this map, so this is unbelievable. This is developed, and you have a project going on because all these were on the original D1, D2, D3 map, where there were all these.
Yeah, that's the index map, and so and it happened before I got there as well. The Dragon's Foot community then started. A group of them decided that they wanted to start detailing all of these other locations on the index map that weren't described, because the only locations that are described here are the ones that are in a straight line.
Yep.
You know, from the bottom right corner to the top left corner, straight to the vault, right to the vault of the Drow. Yep. So they decided they were going to, make a community project. And it started a year or two before I noticed it and decided to become involved and contributed my city of core to an area of that map. And there was one of the guys was editing and putting it together. And, people's lives change, and he didn't have time to do it anymore. So I acquired all of the raw files from him. He sent me everything. And so I started putting, the original idea was to create a single PDF document describing all of the areas, and every different people would contribute an article about, like, each person would claim an area on the Dragon's Foot thread. They would say, well, is anybody doing this hex? And and they said, well, okay, I'm going to claim this hex, and it would be noted in the thread, in the discussion thread, and they would generate an article, an adventure, and then when it was reasonably finished, they would submit it to the editor, and they would start collecting all of these things into a document, into a single document. Well, as the years went on, it kind of became clear to me that a final document would never be possible.
Yeah.
Because people work faster than others. Other ones, people disappeared. People would have updates. And so my idea was to create the Dragon's Foot project page on my site, because obviously I can access that. And we would be able to update individual projects as they were completed, and people could use them immediately rather than waiting for an ultimate big long final project that might not ever get finished. And so I've started, I over the years some of them are in good shape, others are not. Some of them were never finished. I've tried to reach out to as many of the people
There's a
as
lot of
possible.
detail, though. A lot of them are done.
Oh, there are quite a few of them that are done.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
No, and it's neat. And some of them are, well, all of them are pretty cool, actually. But
So
some are shorter, some are longer.
I know we're delving into, so what's the premise of your campaign? Like, is it a group of adventurers out of Melkasia, or is it
That's a tough question to answer. There've been a couple of main groups, and most of the campaign is focused on them. And my Rick Ash, my main campaign player nowadays, is the last kind of surviving player from the old days.
8081. Yours is almost as old as mine, so we're right there.
Yeah, we started in 1980. I think Rick joined the campaign about a year later. He wasn't the original player. Like, it was a friend of mine from high school who, through another friend of ours from high school, stumbled upon the game and invited me. Like Eric Price, of one of my high school buddies, who'd found out from another friend of ours about it, and they tried to figure it out themselves. And they think they'd been playing. I was asking Eric the other day about this, seeing how much he remembers. I think they started playing only a month or two before they got a hold of me, like, because I had graduated high school and started first year university. And so we weren't in touch for about 6 months. And that's exactly when they got into the game. And I had a part-time job working at Kmart. And Eric came into Kmart for some reason and he says, "Hey, we stumbled upon this cool game you might like. Come on over," and played. So that first session, I absolutely hated it, because I had no idea what was going on.
That was my first time I played. I had exactly the same sensation. This is terrible. Yeah.
No idea of the rules. They would tell me to roll dice when I needed to roll dice.
Same here. I had no clue. Now you do this. Now you do that. Now you're dead, or something. And it was like, okay.
It was. I forget which one of the original.
Right.
It was one of the original boxes that they.
Okay.
And then right after that, the DM guide came out. Right.
Yeah.
So we switched right away to AD&D. But I was completely lost. No idea what I was doing. No idea what I was rolling. Created a character. Couldn't really think of an original name. So my very first character's name was actually Aragorn. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had one too. Alan, my
probably
buddy Alan.
every D&D player has had.
We had an Aragorn. We still have an Arathorn. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I says, well, okay, let me borrow the player's handbook and read through it and figure out what's going on. And so I did that. And then a couple of weekends later, I came back, had my second session, knew what I was doing, fell in love with the game at that point.
Once I understood.
In about 6 months, I became the primary DM. And I've been DMing ever since.
It took me
Rick
a couple
came
of years.
in, I think, about 6 months after that, something like that. Maybe. But I guess that's a long way of not answering your original question, wasn't it?
It's okay though. It was a great look. It's a great story because, like I said, you and our campaign started almost the exact same time.
Yeah,
and they're still going. So
now I think you have actually played far more than I have.
Okay.
Because I don't think you've had really any breaks in your playing, right?
Away at college in the first couple of years, we played every couple of months because I was away, and I'd go home or they'd come to me.
I was in a different country. I moved to the U.S. for 3 years for my master's. I was in another city again for my PhD. So I was moving around as well. I did get some games started in those areas too, but there have been periods where I've spent multiple years where I didn't play. I don't think you ever had something like that. So I think you've had far more game sessions than I have, even though we both started at the same time. But that original party with Aragorn and Elendary was a friend of mine's wizard. That party, and then I shortly after that I rolled Maldin as a character in a separate party.
So you was your second
Maldin
character.
got together. That was my second character.
Cool.
Maldin was my second. And so then as Maldin got high enough level to be up about with the other group, then Maldin and Elendary, me and my character getting together with Elendary's character, who's Eric's brother, John Price created Elendary. They started adventuring just them, right? And so usually it was John or Rick and John who are running the characters and other characters in the party with me DMing. And so that group of characters is kind of the core. A lot of the parties that have come after that were hirelings or henchmen of theirs that started low level and started climbing up. I had some other groups that actually were like people from my masters, for example. They started a separate group. They got to meet the original characters in game kind of thing. And so everything gets all tied together.
Exactly. It all interlinks into the same campaign setting.
All the time.
Yep, you got it. That's the way to do
now,
it.
Is there a main thread to the campaign? Yes, there is. There is something. Rick is the only person in the position right now to start piecing it. But all of the different parties that we've had have all done things relating to, a lot of the adventures are just like adventures.
Right.
But I try to tie everything with a purpose. And so there is things going on in the campaign world
I think
that
you mentioned it once before against Tharsden.
Ultimately,
yes.
And so then this is something that Rick, if he's watching, may or may not realize, but yeah, there's some really bad shit that's coming down.
Return. Yeah, hey, that's great.
I love some of your stories that ties into that. They're awesome.
And so a lot of that is figuring out. A lot of what these different groups have been doing is figuring out how the world is being affected. That's eventually going to lead to the idea of what Therisden is the return of, and so that's part of it. But there are very few things that are going to be able to stop it. And so there are groups that are working towards those ideas of how is this going to, how's the end resolution going to happen? And so a lot of this story is stuff that I've built up over time. I can't say that I had an idea for the main campaign thread 20 years ago and I've been working towards that. No, it's not. But I've had ideas that I've now incorporated. And okay, this is gonna. So there's a lot of retcon, right? And as far
that's
as
okay though, man. No one needs to know it.
The good plots for me, good plots have taken a decade or two to evolve because one bit you need to learn, and then and Joe said it on your stream, Jay, when you had with him, and he said we Greyhawk creators, we riff off each other, and that's what I've done, and which is so cool that I've taken ideas from others that kind of made my campaign better and my ideas and stuff. So it's awesome. So you cherry pick from others. So yeah. Especially you have a story that is the hang on a second, I had it here, the saga of the Kerdier lore or something like that, whatever you call it, is on your site. That one is awesome. It's a little story about from old Flandom and stuff. And
that's a different part of the website.
It's a different part of the website
worth talking about. In that, There's the main part of melcott.com, but there are two subparts to the website where I've hosted material for other people. So I've hosted Mike's webcomic like forever.
Mm-hmm.
Although there was a period there where his part of the website got hacked and we had to edit, like, I don't know how many files did we edit? 600 files or
Oh
something.
my gosh.
It was crazy. I had to take that part of the website off while Mike and I spent like 2 months editing every single HTML file. Anyways, so I've hosted Mike's webcom. It's back up and fine. It's good now. The smaller part that I've hosted as well is Tony Hargis, Mystic Scholar, and so I haven't gotten anything from him in quite a while, but
I haven't heard from him in a while either. So
he was writing Greyhawk fiction. The story that you're talking about, Anna, is one of Tony's stories.
Oh, is that Tony's stories? Okay,
that's
I wasn't
Tony's
sure.
Stories.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
that's
who
not
wrote
mine.
it. Okay,
that's not mine.
It's
I don't know.
Cool, though.
I sent Tony a message that we were going to be talking about one website. But yeah, this Anna and I can't even of the Mystic Scholar. Mystic Scholar is Tony. This is all of his stuff. This is none of it is mine. All I did was he'd sent me the text files and I posted it. That's all I
thought you had done the first one and he did the
second
one.
Okay. No. This is all Tony. Yeah. And I wish Tony would get back into writing the stuff. I know he got disillusioned for a while, but I really liked his stories. I really do like his stories.
Yeah, and I like the first.
Tony, if you're out there, send a message or something.
Yeah, please
but anyways,
do. Yeah.
But no, his stuff is his stories are pretty cool, and it's not just because one of his story threads has Maldin as a character in it, but no, I think he's a good writer. I think he's a good. It's a good.
It was cool because it's old Flan. It has mock
and there's somebody's just posted
such of old stuff in there that is
the greyhawkstories.com site. I have to check more of that out too. Other people writing Greyhawk stories.
You mean Tommy John Kelly's? Yeah, it's really good.
Oh yes,
yeah. You mentioned it on your stream too, Jay, yesterday about that writing. But yeah,
absolutely. I use stuff right from his prose on the Hateful Words right in my campaign. So definitely.
Gary's worked with Mystic Scholar as well on different stuff too.
Yeah.
Have you heard from him lately, Gary?
There's David with his great site.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in at least, I think it's 6 years now or something. We chatted several times and he sent me stuff and I read it and back and forth. And he did, he wrote some really cool stuff. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to hit the wrong button. I know it, everyone. I know I'm going to hit the wrong button.
Uh-oh.
Oh, maybe not. There we go. I got David Leonard's up. And Mike's Greyhawkery up 2 there. All right, so from this ring here, I know Darling's looking forward to this, and I know she usually has a stream tonight. So I want to get to
the Spelljammer.
No.
Make David happy. No.
Yes.
Okay.
Large Luigi. Yes. The Secrets of Beholders.
I know you're hot. You're hot for Beholders, Jay.
Yes, right. I know. Hey, there we go. Look, Darling in chat. Beholders. Yeah. So let's get into this.
Tell us about the Beholders. The story about the Beholders.
There's a sketch that I did of Maldin.
Yep.
Based on Mike's version. I have to give credit to Mike for doing the original image on the front of my webpage with me and my 2 assistants. But anyways, so riffing off of his drawing of me, I drew this of Maldin looking at an Orbis. So yeah, Spelljammer is figured prominently as a integral part of my Greyhawk campaign, and reading stuff about Beholders and Orbi and trying the scientist in me, and here's where my players out there are gonna know me, are not my players, my students from my dinosaur course. You're gonna know me. The scientist in me wants to try to tie things together in a common sense way, which goes to we could talk about later my multiverse article, right? When I was trying to figure out how Orbi work and how they know where to go, being kind of a zombie-like creature, like, how are they? Because there's no navigator on a Beholder ship, for example. And so I had also read, because I of course, like every good DM acquired all of the Spelljammer materials. So I have the Realm Space module, and the Realm Space module describes the spire as a location that's important to the beholder's past, not so much their present, as this repository of all knowledge that it's possible for a beholder that hits all the right spots, and it's only happened once in recent years, and that's created Large Luigi, a popular barkeep in the Rock of Brawl, where he's downloaded all this. So all of those things I was thinking is, how can I link all of these things together? So my idea was that the Orbis actually taps into this basically ultimate computer data bank that's the collection of all knowledge that all beholders have ever collected. And so that got me thinking as to what the original purpose of the beholder race might have been. As observers of the universe, collecting data for this elder artifact level mountain that they can then download. Well, now nobody can access that information except the beholders who climb the spire. And so my idea was that the Orbis taps into the spire, and that's how it navigates. But it in a kind of an automaton way, in that they don't really have self-awareness or a personality, or it's not, the Orbis is not a normal creature as far as creatures are concerned. So my idea was that the Orbis gave me the idea that of this ultimate data storage facility, and therefore this had to have been created at some point. And so I postulate the existence of a forgotten beholder god that was the god of knowledge, right? Which the modern beholder gods, the more recent ones, have kept that history silent. Because and this is one of the things that I talk about in the multiverse article, is that there have been uncounted generations of powers in the sense of gods, power with a capital P. And it's only the most recent collection of powers / gods that beings are aware of, because they write the narrative, right? Everybody's pantheon has the creator god. Well, that's impossible. Right? True. So this beholder god is from a previous generation of beholder gods that have since long been forgotten, and who knows, maybe can be resuscitated somehow if enough beholders were to become aware of it.
Yeah, I'm reading on the spindle here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the spindle is the mountain in I think Hakasa is the planet in Realm Space. And so that part of it was not my idea. The idea of the spindle was published in Realm Space, but it gave me the idea for tying it all together.
Large Luigi. So your Greyhawk is much more interplanetary, or
you really
way more than mine is. Yeah.
Because I've also pulled in Planescape into it as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And so Maldin and Elendary fairly recently, as in last year, were in Sigil looking for information, tracking down information on a variety of things.
That's awesome. Secret knowledge. Yep. So secrets. So Is it because they've lost their way? They've gone like and are just doing just like anyone else would. They just don't know what to do, and they're guarding
Well, and they're
Greyhawk City, or they're domineering other races. So
yeah, well, their their ideology is controlled by the current gods. The current gods are beholder gods are evil and chaotic and right. So they've become a reflection of their gods in a sense, or has their gods become the reflection of them? And it's an argument that every DM has within themselves on how they want to build their multiverse, right?
Right. It's a great thought. On just getting some reasoning. I know Anna's very big on that, right? Getting reasoning
you
behind
gave
why
me
they
your article on the multiverse and thoughts about it. That was one of my inspirations to think, okay, how do I want it to work in my campaign, and got it to. I forgot how many. I read it like years ago when you posted it.
Yeah, it's been up for quite a while.
Yeah, and I read it, and
Life, the multiverse, and everything is the
and that got me thinking. I need to start thinking, how do I want it? And so I took a lot of great inspiration from there, and I started to think, okay, where do the gods come from? Where do creatures come from? And I'm like you. I want to have scientific. So I want to have like a fantasy science kind of. It should based in it. So I thought that, okay, the gods' powers and stuff, they come from the critters, so to speak. It's the mental power, and they started with when organisms evolve enough mental powers, they create the other planes. First, it was the Feywild and stuff, when animals got feelings and instincts and stuff, and then eventually came the intelligent being created, the other planes, so to speak. So when they started being good and evil and whatnot. So
and I think it's important for every DM to kind of have that sort of. I mean, when you think about when a TV series gets designed, so like Star Trek TV series, and there have been several of them, or Star Wars movies, or if you're whatever, the original writers, the creators of the show, will create what they call the show Bible, right? And so they create a set of rules, of information, of background that is secret to the viewing public, but is what they use to make sure, well, any good show does this anyways, to make sure that of all of the writers that come after that, they're going to write episodes for it, that they're working from some base that allows the world to fit, to make sense. And so every DM, I think, has, whether it's consciously or not, they have an idea of the background of their campaign. So my multiverse thing, I call it my grand unified theory. Samwise used to joke all the time about Maldin's gut, but I have a big gut. But my grand unified theory of D&D, of how magic and the physics of the world fit together, and how it came to be by the formation of the multiverse, and the original creatures, are what I call these shards, these creatures that originally were manifest within the original soup of the creation of the it first started out as the universe, became a multiverse, and I talk about that. I
think it's important. So you can, from a DM, as a DM, you need to understand how D&D physics works in your campaign.
I can then create new things that make sense.
And you can then, that way you can also make consistent arbitration when players want to do weird stuff, and why does things work and why don't they work, and when do they work?
So there's Gary and Sam diving into my gut.
But I think it's something that is, if you want to do a long-term deep campaign, then you should, as a DM, you should figure out how you want things organized, and then keep
now, if
that
you're
secret.
A DM that and Joe was saying this, I think, and in the stream yesterday, that he's a different kind of DM in that he restarts all the time. Then, and it's perfectly fine to play D&D as individual, separate, disconnected games. If that's your style, awesome. And then you don't need to do that sort of thing. But if you want to create something that is internally consistent, you have to create the rules
Yep.
for that internal
Mhm.
consistency. And so
Yep.
that I decided to voice my rules.
Yep.
And
And
so
also,
this ties into, sorry,
no, please.
when you were mentioning about Therisden. So Therisden comes into here. This is where he comes in, because he's one of the last remaining shards of the original elders, the original beings that
Yep.
formed, that was forced out of the multiverse in order for it to take the shape that it's in now. His return would destabilize everything. We're not talking about the loss of Earth or the loss of gray space. Talking about the loss of the multiverse when it unravels.
So you're talking about the last Tom Baker episode when he is alive? No, dead serious. That's what happens, right? The universe starts unraveling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, same thing happened, and they had to find a way to stabilize it. So that's your grand.
But it's like the
That's
golden
great.
rule.
Yeah.
You always have to have one layer deeper than the players ask. You should develop one layer more than the players ask for, so to speak. And it's hard to follow that rule, but that's the rule that I want to follow in my planning. I should always have a little bit more than the players ask for. So whenever they should never feel like they hit a wall and there's nothing behind it. It needs to always feel like there's something behind
Well, and there's
wherever. Yeah.
us as DMs. I mean, we have our background fun that the players never actually find out. There's stuff that I've created that my players will never ever find out, but it's fun for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, sure.
But world building is as fun as
I'll
as
answer
playing
your
the game for me.
question, Canadian ancient game. I'll ask your question. I'll answer your question in a minute when we get to it. Absolutely. I've been asked that multiple times.
We forgot to mention this great picture.
Oh yes,
too.
please.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you compare my sketch of
I'll do that in a second.
Melkosha Castle, it should look familiar.
There you go.
It might be better from the front view. The line. Yes, that one.
There you go.
So if you compare that one to the other one,
if you're not stealing, you're not trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what I did was I made Melkosha much bigger than that. Well, that dragon is.
I was good to say that is one heck of a big dragon.
That's the dragon in the red box. That's the dragon in the big red box that they came out with, right?
Yeah, but even this, if you take the dragon out and look at it as a castle, I think it was Greg. I think that's a Greg Hildebrand, not a Tim Hildebrand. They were brothers, right?
Yeah.
This
one says
no, maybe it was Tim. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
but Dennis, I have an explanation of that big dragon, because in my world is that deities, creatures with deity powers, they can project themselves in the world, and then they can basically be any size.
Yeah.
So, or they can be as big as their divine powers, so to speak. So if you're like, I use a demigod, you can appear like enormous and you're stretching up into the sky or something like that to scare mere mortals with, but they aren't that big, but they can project themselves.
Yeah. So when I was designing Melkosha Castle, I was inspired by that issue, and 49. That was like 19.
That's early 78.
70 something. Yeah. So it goes back as far as my campaign for sure. Yeah. And so I added twin towers instead of a single big tower. I added the skull in the front to make it it's a castle that was built over several generations. But
so did your character
last
Maldin
generation?
Did he build it?
No. Maldin did not. Maldin is from. Well, no. Maldin is from the city of Melkot, but Marchanter was an evil. Well, there was a series of lords that added to the castle over, and my website has a description of the history of the castle. There's one of the buildings was the original. I think the very center most is the Lord's residence. Yes, that was the original castle, and then through many generations they kept adding on to it. The last occupant was Marchanter Melkosha, and he added the twin towers and the skull in the front, and I think the lab as well. He did the bulk of the building. The twin towers went up very quickly because he used a lot of elementals. And in my campaign, the last known or unknown character, and this is something that I'm not spilling. My play, Rick already knows this already. Is that in my world, the last person to own the Codex of the Infinite Planes was Marchanter.
Okay.
He acquired the Codex, and so he's used it multiple times before he disappeared, as most users of the Codex end up happening. But he's been missing 40 years, something like that now. But there's a cult that's in the city that's grown up, and the Sons of Marchanter, which have become, that Gary mentions in some articles as well, because they're kind of become rivals to the Silent Ones.
Oh, nice.
But Gary's mentioned them in articles. So yeah, the castle, when Marchanter disappeared 40 years ago, castle was abandoned. It's filled with a whole lot of nasty. So it's the ultimate adventuring ground in my campaign world,
That's
much more so even than Castle Greyhawk.
Wow.
One thing, it's bigger.
It looks, yeah, it's huge. This is
And
huge.
there's things inside that, yeah, it's
Yes, the Greyhawk is only 3 towers and a whole bunch of stuff under, if
Yeah.
you go by later sources.
Yes.
But I don't know if Gary's vision was that 3 towers or not.
But there's this castle here has over 600 rooms in it.
Wow.
The levels in the twin towers, there's about 300 rooms in that. Most of those are not actually mapped, but all of the rest of the castle is actually mapped.
Oh my gosh, Dennis,
down
that's insane.
to, well, let me see if
Wow.
it probably, most of that has not been digitized. I've created the map for the front guard tower. It's on my website, but I've not gotten around to digitizing.
Okay. But
the others. I just want to.
That's awesome to see. Let me take a look here. Whoops. Great. I just nixed everything. La la la. Dumb. 1 second here.
Trying to find some. Sorry for wasting.
No.
No,
Don't worry. We're good.
Time
we're perfectly fine.
Trying to find my. Because here they are. There's some of them, anyways.
I can, now that I know to go to the site map, and we can go wherever we want from the site map.
So, for example, there's one of the levels which actually spans several levels because of stairs. I need more space on my desk.
We always all need.
This is the level that links most of the major buildings.
Hold on, keep it up right there. I'm sorry. Let me flip it to the bigger screen. There we go. All right, so that's a connector. So all right, cool. Wow, that's really nicely done.
So all of the floors for the other buildings are all done like this.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
It's just, as I said, the twin towers, most of those specific levels are not mapped. The tops are mapped because Marchanter's main labs and personal quarters and that are in the top of the far tower. Rick's adventured in there. Rick's been inside Melkosha Castle several times, but
you gotta get the city of Melkot all mapped out.
The city is all mapped out, and there's some of the buildings there. For example, the School of Magic is completely mapped out. It's got a floor level. That's probably in here as well.
Wow. You got the truth behind the Sons of Marchanter is known to no one outside the cult.
Yeah, and so I go into detail about the cult as well, and
Nice.
who's the people who are running the cult and what they're about. A lot of people think that it's a religious cult. It's actually not. It's a cult of people who the founders of the cult originally worked in the castle and are basically henchmen survivors, and they're trying to find Marchanter. But it's a
I love
filled
that.
with wizards.
I also love that they use the Sully's timeline, not the common year.
Well, I use it because as part of my main timeline, and Rick always cringes when I mention the word timeline because we're tied to it with 6 different parties we have to match, and he runs them all, most of them, most of the different groups. But it's the only calendar that goes far back enough that I don't have to worry about negative numbers.
Yeah, I see that.
That's the main reason why I use it, is so I don't have
okay.
to deal with negative numbers.
But it worked. I'm using Obsidian.md now, and the DataView plugin is that you can handle calendars that are minus forever too.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So it
Now,
works
one
really
thing
well.
I've gone back and forth with Gary Holian about is finding software to generate timelines rather than the handwritten timeline that I have.
Yeah, you should look into. We'll talk about.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it later.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gary mentions, I think, because somebody else mentioned earlier that the style that I use for my city mapping is unabashedly stolen from the Harn maps. I loved the Harn maps when they came out.
They were so far.
They were amazing.
They were 10 years ahead of everybody else when it comes to map. At least 10 years ahead.
I think part of their dedication to detail is what did them in.
Yeah.
I think they got into the nitty-gritty of medieval city descriptions, and people weren't really into that. I think that is playing. They didn't have that much playable stuff, so it never really caught on hugely. But it's amazing material, and I absolutely rip off, the style of that they use for the Harn maps.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
the white boxes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you a crazy question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, you're right. World Anvil is great too, and World Anvil has some good advantages too. But Obsidian has some other advantages. So it depends on what you want. But
okay,
so both of them are really good. Yeah.
So here's my question. You got this all posted, which is awesome, and people use this. Do you know of anyone else who's ever used this and ran an adventure here in the city of Melcott?
I've had a couple of people tell me that they're using the city of Melcott.
That's awesome.
I forget who it is. I'm always glad to hear from people who are because when you post material, you want to know that people are using it and finding it useful. But there's often that feedback doesn't happen, right? Because I can see that lots of people are accessing my website. They must be doing it for a reason. And so sure. But yeah, I know people have used it. What level they use it to, who knows? People are certainly welcome to use the map for their own city, completely redesign an entirely different city, call it something else, use my map. That's
and what's great with this is it's in the same style that you use for the Free City Greyhawk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
most of my city maps. If you go to my RPG mapping page, you'll see there are a couple of different styles of mapping that I've done. I've done the Harn style map. I've done the core and now Errol High Kinlu style map where there isn't individual buildings. It's just the streets are showing.
Let me find this off of here because I had to. I closed everything out off of. Where's it under? Greyhawk locations, Iron Gate City map, City Melcott main page.
Let me go to it.
Leningrad Hulk Bring.
It's 3/4 of the way down the game
Left.
mechanics section.
Game mechanics section. Okay, got it. There. So I'm almost registering the dead.
Towards the
Got
bottom.
it. Yeah, there you go. Thanks. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, so I talk in a lot in here about different styles of RPG mapping, and so I have snippets of some of the different styles that I've used, including the hand-drawn area map that you showed before. But so yeah, there's dungeon level and region level maps. Oh, there's that one as well. Yeah, well, that's the hand-drawn one that's never been digitized.
Of the gnarly and the sus.
Yeah, I have dozens and dozens of things that have never been digitized, but there's more of a blocky Darlene style that I did with Corel Draw just above that. There's an aerial view of Castle Melkotia. That's what it looks like sitting on the mountain.
Oh, wow. That one, this one? Wait a minute.
And that's Anna's base map, and then superimposed information.
Yeah, you got
and so yeah, so there are different styles of mapping that I've done. There's a corner of the city of Irongate, which has never been finished, the upper right of those four, right? And there's a city of Core, bottom left.
Yep.
That style is the style that I used for the Errol High Kinlu map. I use that style of mapping. And so, yeah, I mean, different styles for different purposes. I wouldn't want to map a building level map of the entire city of Errol High Kinlu. No, I have no intention of doing that.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, just showing an example of Bologna so you get an idea of.
Yeah, that's Bologna, a medieval city. And then the two street level pictures that I took when I was in Siena in Italy.
Right.
Those two people walking on the left-hand side. Yeah, those are my parents.
Oh,
yeah, right there.
The white, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So there were two questions. You have Patrick's answer, and you also have the one on plate tectonics from Cannibal.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to create a reasonable working plate tectonic map for the Flannis?
Every RPG map that's ever been created is generally not taken geology into effect. It is possible to distort the theory of plate tectonics to create, and sure, whenever you've got
tectonics,
yeah, you can have fantasy tectonics, and I know Anna was worked on this exact sort of thing.
I'm thinking about it like it's the material planes are the planets, so to speak. You have fire in the middle and earth and water, and it mixes and
on the continental scale, yeah, absolutely. I can see, for example, the hell furnaces is a suture between two plates. I mean, it's
and you have the rift,
not so much
another one,
it's a continent collision. So you're talking like India and Asia. So you're talking Himalayas, right?
Yeah.
Where you have mountains on the coast, like the frost barbarians of the. I'm mind blanking on the name of the peninsula there, but where you have mountains,
the Thelonian Peninsula,
right? There, you're talking ocean continent plate tectonics, and so that's like the Rocky Mountains or the Andes, right? And so, yeah, no, absolutely, you can create fantasy tectonics to, fun for DMs. How much of a game impact that has? Probably
well,
not,
if you're an elementalist or magic users might be able to draw power from the environment they're in or something like that. In some areas, the fire spells might be enhanced. Or
and we have subsiding basins like where the near div is now, or the sea to the south, right? There's a couple of ocean basins that are probably the result of subsidence, and so no, absolutely, it's. You can create even weird things like White Plume Mountains sticking out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and you have the Rift Canyon
Hotspots. You can
and
have a
stuff.
hot.
Yeah.
You can explain that as a hotspot, which is
Yeah.
what Hawaii is. Hawaii is a hotspot.
And you have
right?
like the Rift Canyon can be a version like the Great
Yep.
Rift Valley in Africa, but in a fantasy version, so it's more intense in one area or something like its beginning or whatever. Something.
So, Dennis, look up Tetreault's offer up there too in chat, a little bit up, just so you're aware.
Oh, let me see here.
Yeah. So
I have to scroll up a bit.
Just a hair. It's really it's longer, so you'll see it. So
Oh yeah, sure.
So
you're a geo-environmentalist, are you? I didn't know that. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Troy and I share a common scientific background in earth sciences.
So cool.
All right, I know you wanted to share the ship's a Spelljammer, right? So let's
I love Spelljammer.
All right,
and so for the Spelljammer fans out there,
yeah, wow.
One of the things that I thought was real. Now those were the ships that came with the two Wizards of actually TSR products, the original Spelljammer DM screen and the War Captain's Companion, the box set, I think, had these fold-up ships, which were great. Use them constantly. This is my player Rick. This is his favorite thing on the planet is Spelljammer and Spelljammer ship-to-ship combat, and he loves that stuff. I like it too. But those ships were the original ships that were published. Well, after that, there was a whole lot of ships that came out, and there were a lot of ships that were never turned into ship models. So I use my Photoshop skills to create ships. Now, the squid ship and the hammer ship, that's the red and the black ones there, are pre-existing. I needed color variants, so I did those. But all of the other ships that you see on this page and the ones lower down were ships that never existed as a mini. And so I created these, like that's a mammoth. If you scroll a little bit further down, you'll see a photo of the constructed ship. Right. Yeah, there
you go.
So that's what it looks like when it's built, right? And so on. And so all the way down to the point where in Spelljammer, there are elven ships, which kind of look like crystal butterflies. And some of their bases, space bases, are created by merging a bunch of these ships together. So the last thing I created for this was at the very bottom, a design that would allow you to create not just the elven ships, but to piece them all together to make one of these elven bases. There's the ships, and then if you go all the way down to there's the parts to tie them together.
Oh my
and
gosh.
There's the base. There's the constructed base with the ships stuck together, right?
How? My head just, I'm bleeding out my left ear right now. Oh my gosh, how'd you do that? Just simple
Photoshop.
Wow.
Photoshop.
Yeah. Experimenting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then one of the Spelljammer guys was saying, well, okay, you've created the elven base. Well, can you create Gamero base? Gamero base is, well, from one of the adventures, is the empty shell of a giant space turtle. It's the thing is huge. It's hundreds of meters across. And so I said, sure, I can make Gamero. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, I have Gamero base. There it is.
You just put a plushy turtle out there. That's awesome. Yeah, I got your base.
I got your base. There it is.
Oh my gosh. That is funny. Wow. You know what? Maybe I'm ignorant. I did not know that the depths of Spelljammer for this and that many different.
The rules for ship-to-ship combat is really fun. It really is fun, and you go out pirate hunting and whatever. Right? We've had Rick and I have had some epic battles. One of the things that I have in my gray space is they're Pirates of Gith, which are a Githyanki relative.
Okay.
Pirates of Gith inhabit the Grinder, which is an asteroid belt and so Maldin and Ellenderry have a ship, a Spelljammer ship, and they were attacked. And so these guys have it out for Maldin and Ellenderry's fleet. They now have a fleet of ships. The Magic Shop has a fleet. Anyways, the most epic battle that we've ever had was Maldin and Ellenderry's one ship, which during the course of that battle actually gets destroyed and they have to commandeer another one. But one ship versus, I think altogether there were 8 other ships. And
Wow.
the battle went on for hours. It was an epic conflict that we'll remember for the rest of our lives, that fight. But it was pretty. Yeah, it's fun. If you ever if you ever think of expanding out of Earth, Spelljammer is a pretty fun game system to get into. I tend to avoid the sillier parts. A lot of people have complained that Spelljammer has a silly factor that they can't stomach. All you have to do is not use it. I mean, but no, it's wonderful. I mean, space pirates. I mean, how can you go wrong? And it's not science fiction. It's absolutely
not like
science
ice pirates. No.
No. It's not science fiction. They're medieval ships, and there's a physics called Grubbian physics. Jeff Grubb created a physics to make Spelljammer work from a magical point of view. So ships have gravity. You don't float into space. An object that's big enough has its own gravity. A ship is big enough. So you can walk on an open deck galleon in space and not die.
They retain atmosphere like planets do, or
something?
Okay.
All objects retain a certain amount of atmosphere as a bubble.
How convenient.
Including human-sized objects will retain a bubble. Which means that you can survive for short periods of time, because a humanoid has a very limited bubble.
Yes, but that little bubble lasts a few rounds or an hour or whatever, something.
Yeah, so you're good. A ship contains a large enough bubble
that you last for a long time.
That you can theoretically last for weeks or months.
Bring some plants and you're good.
Well, and there are obviously going to be spells for refreshing your air, for example, and there are magic items that refresh air, and so so there are rules for handling that, but it's adventure on the high seas, except without the seas.
Right. Sea of space.
So it's awesome. And so I've incorporated that into my Greyhawk. I've incorporated Planescape into my Greyhawk as well. So it's all part of the big multiversal picture. Right?
So I know a couple people asked about this, so I just went to it. The Hobloggers of Iron Gate. So a little fun thing.
This is one of Sam's things. One of the things that we had excitable arguments about in the original chat room was it started out as the positions of cities on Darlene's map. Right. And so one of the ideas was, if the city is in a hex that has a coast, even if the city is not on the coast, it's actually a coastal city. That was one of the arguments, right? So Iron Gate was a coastal city, right? But then, so we're talking about how ships could travel supposedly from Iron Gate across the peninsula, and this whole thing about Sam's canal started. So he wanted.
It would be easier to make it a tunnel rather than a canal, because there's a lot less mountain you have to cut away if you make a tunnel through rather than a canal.
So my idea was to create the river that's on the peninsula with a stream on the other side. And so, of course, we had to use dwarves because they're so watery related. Demi-human. We have a group of a clan of dwarves that dug a series of locks a canal that connected the headwaters of the one river to the other river. And so this clan of dwarves, and I'm going to get Sam started here. Here we go. They created the canal to bring barges across the peninsula.
But
Are
if
they dwarves
I
or
use
halflings? He says they're halflings.
but if I use
can
make a tunnel from the land. Yeah,
the dwarves that run the canal, the people that run the canal are they're dwarves.
Hobloggers.
Sorry, Sam. The hobgoblins, the hobloggers are loggers. The halflings are logging, because the other thing that Iron Gate was known for the manufacture of metal products. Iron, right? Iron Gate, armor and weapons, huge, and so when we were creating the map, we decided that Iron Gate was going to be in this narrow valley, and so they've logged all of the trees up the valley. And so because I envisioned this area to have a plateau with cliffs, now all of the trees are on a cliff. We needed a way to get all the trees to supply Iron Gate with its wood. And so the idea was that the halflings or hobloggers are the clan that are logging the trees up on the plateau and transporting the trees via complex cables to the valley floor down the river to the city of Iron Gate. And so because they're loggers, they're dealing with trees, Sam came up with the idea of Stradivert. Was it Stradivert? The tree related god of the hobloggers, because they're logging the trees anyway. So Sam's
Raxivort, that's funny.
Instead of Raxivort, Stradivort, based obviously Scrat, the character from Ice Age. So the Stradivort page is actually Sam's writing. It's not mine.
Oh, okay.
So that came from Sam Weiss. Scrat cross with Raxivort is how he got it. Yeah. And so the halflings are the hobloggers. So they have a union. That's the word that I'm looking for. Not union's not the right word, but
deity of squirrels.
Yeah, there you go. And so the hobloggers deal with Scratsivort. Because they're in trees, they're logging trees, they're using cabling to bring the trees down to the river and so on. And so yeah, all of this started out because the canal and hobloggers and everything all built naturally out of the argument about the maps, whether the cities were on the coast or not, is where that all originally came from.
So that's the great thing, is that you took a little thing, you guys are just talking about it, and it goes into all this craziness, which is awesome.
And there's probably 100 different examples spread through my website, and 1,000 different examples through every DM's campaign world. That starts the same way, just some weird discussion that goes off on the left. Oh, I'm glad you brought this one up. This is another page that's not mine that I'm very proud to have hosted.
Yeah,
Rick. I asked Rick Rose to write it for me, and he sat down and Rick's a great writer, and he sat down and wrote this specifically so I could post it to the page. When we found out that Carl Sargent died, Rick was a good friend of Carl's. There are very few people on the planet that can say that.
Yep.
Yeah, we had an episode.
Rick was yes, we had an episode
Gabbin where we talked about it. Yeah.
And Rick wrote a really great tribute to Carl Sargent and his work. Because of that, I sent Rick a message that we were going to be on here and that we would likely mention his story. But Rick lives in a different time zone. I don't know if he made it or not, but.
Well, it's fantastic to
But
know
it's
that.
great because Carl Sargent made such a contribution to the
Oh, yeah.
lore of Greyhawk, so it's awesome that
And
we
a
get a
big
chance
reason why
Yeah.
Carl did that was because Rick brought him in. Rick was the catalyst
the
for
instigator.
that.
or something.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that was great.
So you still haven't. You didn't answer Patrick's question about the ladies, right? You got to do that still.
Oh,
And
Is
while you're
that
doing
after
that,
the post-show?
I'm going to press this Greyhawk Adventures web ring button and see what happens.
ooh.
Oh, look, it went to this joining about the.
Oh, look at there. That's the homepage for the web ring. Still exists.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the homepage. And look, the link is still there.
All right, let's try this. Next. We're going to hit the next button and see what
Ooh.
happens. Here we go.
Well, there's now only one website in the
Whoops.
link.
Oh, you're the only one?
It's going to take you to a whole bunch of error
Site
pages.
list.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's over, Johnny. Homepage. All right. Yes, we are dead. You got it. So you guys all got the idea. But this page, and here's the Living Greyhawk one. How about this one? Yep. All right. Same thing.
It's
okay.
done. It's gone.
But at least this page is here.
A ghost from the past.
Yep.
Ghost from the past.
Yep,
yeah.
Very cool.
So if you go to my homepage,
yep.
just melcott.com, the main page in the center of the map. There we go. That's the image that Patrick's talking about.
Right.
All
right.
So now you have to tell us a story about this.
That's ostensibly me, with younger hair.
Yes.
So Mike created this for me. The awesome artist for the WOG comic. Mike Bridges created that for me back when I was originally having an anniversary. I think it was the 10th anniversary of the website. Wow. I asked Mike, says, Mike, I've got this idea for an image for my website. What do you think? Can you do it? And so I sent him a couple of photographs from one of our Halloween parties. We used to have great Halloween parties where grad students would come. I used to live closer to the university, like only blocks away, sort of. Well, about a kilometer away from the university, and so grad students would come over for Halloween and that sort of thing. And so these are actually from photographs. So I was dressed as a pirate, and the person on the right is now my wife, girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
Monica. Monica was in a French-made outfit, and the person on the left was Inga. Inga was a good friend of ours. She's moved to another part of Canada now. She's no longer in the area, but she was a really good friend of ours at the time. And so she was in a different costume, right? And so the idea was to have Inga and Monica holding the book up. Then obviously the book is the Codex of the Infinite Planes, right?
Nice.
Historically accurate to the size,
Awesome.
and me looking through it. And to answer his question about did they ever game, Inga was never a gamer. She's never played Dungeons and Dragons, had no interest in it whatsoever. Monica played a few times early in our relationship, but she's not a gamer either. I think she was just playing to appease me. She's not a player. She's not a gamer. She's not gamed since those early days. So no, neither of them have really ever played realistically, but it makes a really good picture.
It's
awesome.
It's awesome.
And a great story too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
So well, we have a few minutes here. Any other sites or places you'd like us to check out?
No, I think we've covered kind of a lot of the things, the Underdark stuff.
I'm going to go to one.
Greyhawk we've talked
I'm going to go to one I'm interested in. How's that? Dreadwood.
The notoriety was a bit interesting, but
okay. All right, we'll go to notoriety. Where was notoriety on here?
At very top of the game mechanics. Yeah.
Yep.
So notoriety was an idea that I took from the is it City of Skulls?
Yes. Yes.
Right. The idea that was there was that if because it's a spy and prisoner rescue
Recovery.
mission.
Yep.
Yeah, the rescue mission. So I don't want to spoil it in case somebody wants to run it. But anyway, so the idea is if you've got a group of famous, theoretically high level characters trompsing through the countryside in an area that's very hostile to their alignment, the land of Ayus, right? You're going to Ayu's capital city, trompsing around. That as you do things, you're going to attract attention. And in the context of the adventure, certain things can happen if you cause too much attention, right? So I took that and decided, well, at a campaign level, obviously as players, as I should say, as characters go through their career, they're doing bigger and bigger things. They're becoming more and more famous. That's going to attract all kinds of attention, a lot of which is not going to be good attention. And some of it is going to get you in trouble. If you do shit in one country that's against another country, you go to visit them, you're going to have a poster, right, in the local post office. And so the notoriety idea was a way of turning that into a mechanic that DMs could use if you're running a longer term campaign. I've had a couple of people contact me, said that they were using it, that they're using this idea. Not had a lot of feedback about it. It's just it's a corner of my website that probably doesn't get much attention, but I think it's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
But I use it very loosey-goosey in my campaign. Some of the groups in my campaign, absolutely, if they show up in certain cities, yeah, they're going to find assassin squads or government hunting parties going after them. Right, and so my players have learned to try to downplay what they're doing. If they can do something and blame it on somebody else, they'll do it. The plausible deniability, right? So there's that. But you wanted to mention the Dreadwood page, maybe?
Yeah, because I love the Dreadwood. So let me just go boom here, Dreadwood.
The origin of that was because one of the main characters that was created by Rick was a druid, and as you go through the levels of druid, eventually you have, in order to gain to go to the next level, you have to become the druid of a region. I needed a region, so I decided that the Dreadwood region would be the region that he would take over. So then I had to go in and start creating background for the Dreadwood Forest. And one of the adventuring areas that I created in the Dreadwood is a short adventure that's at the bottom of this page, the Brindek location. And so I did some art for that. There's I drew that as a sketch of what the building would look like in the swamp. And there's a description of what's there. There's a area level map of the, yeah. And it's actually an Earthmaster Ruins site.
Oh,
because
cool.
I've used the Earthmaster stuff from Harn and placed it in my World of Greyhawk.
And if you wanted to use it here, you could make it an old Obadiah shrine area.
Oh, you could do anything we want. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could do anything with
that
it
you
cool.
want.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's Rick's character that kind of caused this direction.
It's good that you got that one original, right? I mean, right? The one guy who's been around forever and like so.
Yeah, and he knows all of the different subgroups of parties, and he's the guy who runs the Spelljammer party, the Planescape party, the Maldin and Elendary when they do the big stuff, and their henchmen when they do the little stuff, right? Because you know, I have lots of low-level adventures that I want to get done as part of my thread. You don't want to send in a 20+ level.
No, you can't.
No. So you need to create these new guys coming in all the time, right? And so Rick runs those, and we know each other so well now that he can run an entire party of 5-10 characters by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll often just be me and him
So
on a lot of these adventures.
all right, soapbox time.
Okay.
Explain to the audience that it's not that it's no big deal that like a lot of my players play 2 characters on live stream. You have someone who plays 5, right?
Oh, the record was when Rick ran. He the last time that they did it was the expedition to Barrier Peaks, and that party had over a dozen characters in it, and he ran every single one of them.
Yeah, 12 characters.
Every one of them.
All right, I don't feel bad.
It takes a lot of time because he'll have them all laid out on the table, and so we're going to do this guy, and now we're going to do this guy, and we're going to do this guy, and we have to keep track.
Right? Oh, that's awesome.
But no, he's ran over a dozen characters at a time, and done it well. Done it well.
So how many adventure parties do you have? You said you have 6, right? 6?
What's that?
How many venturing parties do you have? 6, roughly?
Oh, 6 active, but there's over a dozen of them that have run over the years. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have 27 active, so I got you beat.
27 active parties?
Yeah.
Or characters?
Parties.
Wow, that's like, yeah.
I have four different live stream groups now, including Ed's group and all. Yeah, so the insanity goes different directions. I've never had anyone play 12 characters before, Dennis. So that's awesome.
Oh, and a lot of those characters had familiars.
Okay, yeah. So you got to count those too.
You got to count those too. Yeah.
Yep. You got to, as a pencil, just understand this, that us old schoolers, when we do games, the timeline, look at all these, like, look at a Walking Dead episode where they'll run an episode and you're like, this is something that happened 2 years earlier, right? And you're like, oh my God, they're flashback. That happens all the time in my games. So, like, the episodes, if I run a group here and another group, it's not necessarily in the same timeline afterwards. It may have been 6 months earlier. You know, that's the way you got to think about it. You got to think about that. It's not a complete linear timeline running out. Then you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and then one of the things that I make fun with Rick is that I have a timeline page with all of the active groups, and there's at least 6. There may be more where each of them are, and if one of them, because he really likes, for example, doing Spelljammer, and so we'll play Spell. One of the problems with Spelljammer, which I have a solution for actually, but that's for a Spelljammer feed.
It's all right.
Is the travel time between adventures can be months or longer, right? Half a year to go from one place to another, right? And so as Rick's Spelljammer party is jumping, it gets too far ahead in the timeline. And I says, well, Rick, we've got to run these others to catch up on the timeline, right? And he's, no, I don't want to do those guys. I want to do these guys. Anyways, so the timeline, keeping things in sync can be difficult.
Tricky.
But it is tough.
As long as you keep them geographically separated, then you can have the timeline go a little bit back and forth. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that completely. So, all right, here's a question for you. From Maldin, would you ever think about going to a convention, say GaryCon or somewhere close to you?
Yeah, I mean, if it was, I mean, my time is not my own. For variety of work and family, it's tough to get away. Well, I've done Gen Con twice. That was when I was a bachelor. But I would love to go to a convention again. I had a blast meeting those 2 years, meeting all of the Greyhawk people, including Sam and a lot of others.
It's one of the greatest pictures ever.
It was fun meeting people in person that you only communicate with on the web. I ended up not playing in anything at Gen Con. Went to a bunch of the seminars, helped participate in a couple of them, obviously, because we were launching Living Greyhawk in that. But yeah, no, absolutely. Consider it. Absolutely. Will I actually ever be able to do it? I hope so, maybe someday. Yeah, maybe run an adventure into Malkosia Castle. Who knows?
Well, that would be awesome.
Um,
That would be
but
fantastic.
yeah, no, it would be cool to see people again in person.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So
I know you guys do a lot of con stuff. And
oh, not at that
I
much.
used to. I used
Yeah.
to for like what was it, almost 10 years. I did like 6 convention every 2 months. So I did like 6 conventions a year usually.
Yeah.
But now after COVID, I've only done Gary Con. That's the only thing I've done after COVID.
And it was great to meet and chat with Gary Gygax when he was alive. To meet Rob
back
Kuntz.
then I never did conventions.
Yeah, to chat with him about stuff. Take Sean K. Reynolds to task for one of his articles. I had him correct some stuff for stuff he did afterwards. But meeting with Sean, well, actually, if you go to the Gen Con page.
Yeah, you have a page there.
That might be a good place to end as we wind up here.
Which one? Which?
Yeah, you showed those pictures before, but please do it again because it's great.
Yeah, there's a Gen Con 2001 link on my sitemap at the top.
Yeah, who's Maldin?
There we go, and I'll put it up here on the picture in the main.
And so in the one bar shot there, you can see Sean Reynolds on the right-hand side.
Yep.
Eric Mona is sitting in the back.
Right there.
Between there, I'm on the back right.
Who's between you and Eric?
That's Fred Weening.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
That's Fred.
This is Stephen Randy McFarlane's gut here on the right.
Yep,
correct?
that's Stephen's there. Noel Graham is to the far left.
This
with
guy?
the mustache.
Mustache.
Yeah, that's Noel, and right behind him is Sam.
That's Sam.
When he had dark hair and was thinner.
Who's this in the back here?
The names I think I have on
Eric Larson.
I think
Eric Larson?
I think that's Eric Larson.
How about this gentleman here with the glasses here?
Russ Taylor.
Russ Taylor. Oh wow.
Yep.
How about the red shirt right here?
That's Randy Patton.
Okay, and then in front.
Oh no, sorry. No, Randy is the guy who's in the front.
Okay,
You're looking
Randy's
at his back.
Front. Okay. Yeah.
And
wow. What a picture.
Who was
That's pretty amazing though. A legendary picture.
Tyler Bannister.
Okay.
Okay.
He was the Ket Triad, Living Greyhawk Ket Triad.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fantastic picture there.
Yeah.
Sam is like 12. That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He's squinting. And the page below that is a group of us, some of the same guys with Gary and Gary's son.
Oh, wow.
Alex, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So there's Sam and Russ sitting between me and Gary.
Yep.
And Noel is there in the back, and Eric Larson. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was great to meet all of these guys, famous ones and not famous ones.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So here's my final question. Did you ever not have the stash?
I grew the stash as an undergrad, so I've had it really
long time. Yeah.
That's cool.
I've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to say in closing here, Dennis? I mean, this has been a wonderful tour into a legend, and everyone out there, a true legend of Greyhawk.
A real tour in narcism, maybe.
That's okay. We were obliging, so
that's
it's okay.
What we wanted today.
Yes.
I don't know if there's any sort of conclusion. I mean, one of the things that people often talk about is, and what the future is, right? The future of Greyhawk, and it's a campaign world that's been adrift for a long time as far as the company is concerned, and we have filled it in. Anything that they create now is going to clash with what's been done for the last 20 years. And so I can see, I know, that's your view. and the view of a lot of people that Greyhawk's better left alone, and there are merits to that because it's going to clash with all of our stuff. But the other side of it, and this is why I am a fence sitter, the other side of it is that we really do need to keep bringing in new people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the official campaign world stuff that brings in new people. Unless you know about the world of Greyhawk, you're not going to go look for Jay's awesome Greyhawk stream. And so...
Unless I reach out and find them too. That's yes.
I was just going to say we will probably be able to if we keep it up, then yeah.
And there is a lot
degree
to that. There is a lot to that. To have a Greyhawk product though would be a big boost to the community.
I understand that would bring in like the masses would be like, ooh, look at this, right?
Yeah, but do we need the masses as long as we have a viable?
Anna, you're dead on. And I understand exactly.
Meaning, how much is critical mass or minimum amount of gamers in order to persist? Because the thing is, if you want to persist past another 20 more years, you need to have a critical mass enough of gamers that keep doing it. Otherwise, it's like a population of animals or whatever. You need a minimum population to be sustainable.
And maybe I'm thinking of it from an ecologist point of view as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask this question because Troy just said this because Troy was there yesterday. What did you think of the discussion Joe and I had on all the stuff that came out? I mean, that's the one you watched, right?
Yeah. That was the one that I saw.
Yeah.
No, it was a great discussion, and as you're flipping through, I mean, there's a lot of awesome material that's getting put out there.
Yep.
Will any of that ever have the traction, the coverage that Temple of Elemental Evil had?
No, of course not.
No,
right.
No.
Right. And we'll never be able to do that as a community.
No, but we still have the reach.
But no, there's tremendous amount of material that's out there. There's a tremendous amount of possibility. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And with stuff like what you do, Jay, with streaming, that's certainly out there. Separately and differently, the stuff that you, Anna, are doing.
Well, yeah.
You're mapping. When somebody is looking at Forgotten Realms maps and they start looking into mapping, they're going to stumble on your stuff.
They do.
Yeah. And when I put something new on the
pull them sideways. Right?
Yeah. And when I put something on the site, it usually gets between 5,000 and 6,000 downloads within a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I say the active amount of users that use my maps are probably close to 5,000.
Wow, that's
so that's somewhere around 5,000-ish, and about 10% of them that actually pay me from my Patreon. So it's about 10% that
someone needs. This is gonna sound crazy. All right, maybe I'm just nuts enough. Someone needs to knock on that WotC door and go with true serum, inject someone there and say, "You guys don't know what the hell you're doing."
Well,
let us do it for you.
No, but I think it will come. Right now, we've had a regime at Wizard of the Coast that only been interested in D&T, the core brand, the rules, the setting concept, and all of that. For a lot of reasons that people have explained, and some of them are viable if you look at TSR in the 90s. But I think there will be a time. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, but it will come a time. I'm almost dead certain when there will be the opposite, where the rules will be less interesting and the content, not necessarily in the form of RPG campaigns, but they might be TV series, books, or whatever, meaning Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms and a bunch of these stories and stuff are too good to just lay in the drawer and not be used. So they will come back. That's my hope and my estimates. And we are probably low down on the list because there are a bunch of others that will come way before us. But we might get a little bit of a mentioning here and there, so to speak. And we don't know what's happening next year since it's the 50th anniversary. We might get a chapter in the new book or maybe even a new product. We don't know, but it will be
the current Wizards mentality is really a derivation from the original Whiplash, and you alluded to it already.
Yeah.
The Whiplash that spawned 3E.
Yeah.
With TSR ran into huge financial trouble because they just went off in so many directions, and they did stuff that was short run, expensive. The box sets, I'm told, really financially killed them because they were expensive to make, and they sold relatively little compared to the rules. So
but digital
you
publishing,
started seeing, you started seeing phases of what they would call Christmas bloodbaths, right? When they would lay off bunches of people every year. And so while the new people who came in, Wizards came in, the new managers came in and began to realize that, well, big money was only to be had publishing rule books. Adventures and regional stuff, well, let's let the small run stuff be done and by other people, and let them absorb the high cost of that low run stuff. And so D20 was birthed, right? The idea of the OGL, and part of that was also driven by the people in Wizards that were seeing the bloodbaths, knowing that if they were next, they would not be able to create for the game. So they created a set of rules while they were in the company that would enable them to continue to work in the business even if they were no longer part of the main company, right? I'm convinced that that's part of the thing, that reason why D20 was birthed, was to give them job safety. But Wizards is still on kind of that idea that rule books is what sells, and the other stuff doesn't.
Yeah, but because we are prime example, we are more interested in the setting than the rules, which means that we will only buy Greyhawk related products and we ignore the rest of it. And so a game setting that you niche your customer base into small silos is a stupid thing. So that means that they are avoiding that at all costs. That's why the concept of setting is something that Wizards have stayed clear of as much as possible. So we love a game setting, but Wizard of the Coast, they hate it and they don't want game settings. It should not be. There could be a Temple of Elemental Leave, there can be a bunch of places, but that can be anywhere you want it to be. It's in the D&D universe, period, so to speak.
But the other thing too is that any corporation still realizes the value of IP. And to answer BB Fan Fund's question, or not a question, but statement, easier to buy Greyhawk from Wizards, they would never sell it. They will never sell it because they will not divest IP that they think, well, maybe 10 years from now we'll use. Right?
Exactly.
They would never, unfortunately, they will never sell it. It's not something that's going to happen.
And now it's also a lot of Greyhawk concepts that are so convoluted and tangled up with other stuff in D&D.
They're cherry picking intellectual property from all of their properties.
And they put it in, because they just want, it should all be D&D, and every D&D player should be interested in every D&D product, period, so to speak. So the game setting in their opinion is an old concept that was part of turning TS or make TSR go bust. So we're not going to have game settings per se. It's D&D and it's the world of D&D, period.
So I'm sorry to go off on that tangent, but
it's leading up to it.
So it's a tangent though that there's a lot of discussion about all the time, everywhere though.
True. For better, for worse. So, Dennis, what else? I know. Anything else you'd like to say in closing there? I mean, this was a really fun discussion. We have other stuff going on. I mean, what do you got going on? Do you have any new projects you're going to be putting on the website?
There are some things that I would like to get back up. I want to get more of Castle Melkotia up eventually, and that sort of thing. There are other parts of the Underdark that I haven't put up yet. No, there are lots of little projects. Well, I mean, here's where is it here? there's 150 pages for the city of Melcott and Melkosha Castle alone. And all of that most of that's not fleshed out. It's like point form stuff and maps without specific room descriptions. And no, I mean, there's lots of stuff. My only problem is I don't have the time. So unfortunately, it takes a push like this for me to get out a page like the Errol Kinlu page. But
we need to have you on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I wouldn't be, but I wouldn't be able to sustain that.
No,
I mean, part of the reason I could do it is it was the holidays. Like I had a week and a half off from university, so and I teach a course on the side on top of my regular day job.
Oh wow! Yeah.
But these days I can only get a couple of updates to the website. It seems a year. I obviously like to do more than that. I still really owe it to the Dragon's Foot guys to finish off more of those and there's still some that I haven't put up yet that were just too.
Hopefully you plan to retire soon so you can start doing this full time.
Unfortunately, I can't afford to retire. But I don't know. There's lots of potential for stuff to get put out. When it gets put out, I don't know.
But we so glad for what we have and whatever.
Yeah, and this is a great celebration for 25 years. 25 years plus.
And I really, thank you, Jay, for helping me to celebrate the 25th anniversary. It's been fun doing all of this. One of the neat things, and I've said this before, one of the things that was great for us starting out back when the three of us did was we had the opportunity, which is really, really difficult or impossible now, as fans to impact the actual setting officially, to actually help in getting our ideas officially published, help with the direction of where the world of Greyhawk went with Living Greyhawk and other stuff. It was a fun time to be around, to have that opportunity, and I only hope that current, like new fans, get that opportunity somehow.
Can happen again. You never know, but so the door is not closed forever. So things change.
And maybe the way to do it as well is with some of these smaller companies now that are publishing.
Absolutely.
Like Carl Ising, who's been doing awesome stuff. By the way, I think happy birthday.
Yes, the Carlos.
Carlos. I think it was Carlos's birthday today, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Wow.
Yeah, so happy birthday, Carlos.
I've been out at Con and everything else going on.
But for companies like that, or even Wolfgang,
like Cobalt Press, Troll Lord, and
stuff there's lots of companies out there that are potentially doing things. As well, that maybe that's the avenue now, not so much.
And they also have game settings in a way that Wizard of the Coast don't have. So some of them they picked up the slack, and now there's so many different varieties of whatever variety and style of play. There's always someone will do it for you. And if you want to stay in Greyhawk, we have the Greyhawk community, and please join. And if you have something you want to do, then start blogging, start mapping, whatever.
Well, it's so good for you to come on. I really appreciate it and just have this discussion.
I have a great time every time you invite me, Jay.
Awesome.
We'll need to do another topic-based one a few months down the road, and just and get one maybe re-look at specialty priests or look at some of the special. You and I both do a lot of specialized things with our campaigns. I think. Because we came up in that 1E2E era that I think a lot of the old schoolers appreciate, and we can always discuss those kind of things. It really is a fun discussion. We got some similar styles. I tell you though, I'll give you one thing: your level of detail is 1,000 times beyond mine, man. I could never. Oh my gosh, We
want to read that.
Well, you can do detail when you only produce 2 things a year.
Okay. It piles up though. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Over 25 years it piles up. Yeah, but I was just going to say we look forward to that fantasy tectonics and geography.
Oh, okay. You and I will have to get together on that.
Exactly.
That
will be fun to do.
We'll work on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, well, I appreciate your hanging here. And when do you normally play? Last question, like what nights, or is it just whenever you guys can get together?
It's when I had a group going up until relatively recently of local people. Rick was part of it for a little while, but for a while we were playing Monday nights.
In person? Yeah.
Well, it started out in person, and then pandemic hit.
Yeah.
We went to Roll20.
Yeah, like
and then
everybody
suddenly
else.
now. Yeah, but even after the pandemic was kind of over, Rick is a 4-hour drive away. He's in my old hometown, and one of the other guys moved out west, and so suddenly we had people who still wanted to play but couldn't be. So we stayed Roll20. So I haven't actually had an in-person game since before, just like
same
the pandemic.
Here. Only at conventions, never.
Yeah. But the gang, the gang from here that was still running. Rick and I haven't been able to get together for a little while as far as for gaming. His work schedule is different than what my work schedule is, kind of. But the other guys, the local guys, one of them graduated and left. The other had a baby, and then another baby, and then another baby, I think. And so it came down to it. Only one guy was Wayne was coming in, and Wayne wasn't confident enough, I think, to run an entire party of players like Rick does. So those games we haven't actually played in months. Okay. Is what's boiled down to. So I'm on hiatus again, unfortunately.
Oh man!
I keep bugging Rick. Rick, we got to get playing again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I know this. You get an impromptu game. You get Gary or a couple other people that just known for years and throw something together. I know they'd play.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Throw them in, man. Throw them into the early level.
Certainly within the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, definitely. I guarantee that people would jump on that. So even if you just connect via Roll20 or whatever, just Zoom.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Dennis, really appreciate it. Anna, what's going on here?
I'm working right now. I'm working on Critwall. There was an update on Critwall. That is the next thing that I'm not sure that will be the next thing that will pop up on my blog, but that's what I'm currently working on. It's basically the big ticket items that I want to show at GaryCon. That's the one I'm working on at the moment. So a lot of GIS stuff too. It's a couple hours of GIS every day and then a bunch of other stuff. But right now it's Critwall and GIS are the main things. Yeah.
Now, one of the dreams that Gary Holian and I would, because he has a science background as well, was to create a 3D GIS database of Greyhawk with everything.
That's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know we've talked about it in the past. Wow. Before. That'll be really cool to kind of see realized at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah, it will take years to get there, but I'm working. It took me 20 years to get the current one. This one will go faster, but it will take years because now I'm doing it full time. But it took over 5 years of full time for the other one. So, but I'm like you. I'm a tortoise when it comes to this. I'm not a sprinter, so not a hare. It's working on. Bit by bit, so to speak. And I figure I now have the technology and the tools are coming in place, and I'm starting to learn how to do them and so on and so forth. So it's getting there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You got a mapping stream Friday, Anna?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yep.
Excellent. So I didn't get this together because I didn't know what we were going to do Wednesday till after we got to a point where I couldn't make it. But so before this, Wednesday night, I think we're going to try to tackle the Rennie, whatever the hell you call him.
Yep.
I call him Rennie. I call him the Rennie. And that's the way it's going to go. And we're going to have it. Wednesday night at 7. Rennie. All right. Les has given me some background stuff. That stuff I didn't know where it was. He's gotten me. Ann and I. It may just be Ann and I. If Mike's got a game, he won't be in. But
well,
Ann
we'll
and I
see.
can handle it. Yeah. So that'll be Wednesday, Thursday. Dungeon 19's by the wayside. I did run this a long time ago. It was adventure number 89 out of 1,028 that we're on now. But I'm going to tweak it a little bit and change it up. And this actually takes place in the whole marshes, right on the Yeomanry Sea Princess border, this adventure. So I'm going to run that because I showed that to you guys during the what's going on for next year. And then 2 weeks, our next special is a Saturday morning game. It's a prelude to the fundraiser event. Okay, Minions of the Sun. So here are all our guests: Little Bird, Coco, LJ, DM Dave from Guild Superior Court, the Mighty. And if Heather Heck says yes, she'll be the 6th. If she doesn't say yes, I may reach out for another 6th person. So just be aware of that. So
or and then, somebody can run 2 characters.
Someone could run 2 characters. Yes, they could. But I'd rather have another special guest. So yes, all is less. Yeah. Less is more. No less, no more. Yep. So let's do the giveaway. Here we go. Last call, 10 seconds, and I'll Classic D&D reprint, and we'll see. CTO's won the last 2, but I don't think he's on, so I don't think he's going to win a 3rd time. We're going to close this out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing. There you go, Savage. You just got in time. Oh, thank you, Keith. That was great.
I used comeliness and another stat that we never talked about. Willpower. I use willpower as a new stat as well. And
excellent. Death Note Craig Greyhawk was the winner. So let me know what you want out of this great pile. If you don't have a Raven's Rook, I highly recommend it. Rook Roost. What a great city book by William Henry Dvorak. I do have treasures here. I do have a G1 through 3. I do have a Shokanth, plus some other things. So Death OK Greyhawk is the winner. Is Death on? Just make sure Death is still on. Yep, Death's in chat.
Yep, he's there. Yep.
All right, so there you go. Raven's Rook, you got it. Death, I think I have your address. I should have it, right? I've sent you stuff before direct because it'll be in the database and it'll be in your Whisper. So, yep. Okay, cool. All right. So, thank you for that, Joe Bree. Thank you for the sub. Keith said in chat, Roger, this was a great discussion, but it wouldn't have been great if Dennis wasn't here, right?
You would have found something.
Oh,
no, not this good.
Not this good. 25 years.
Yep.
I don't know if we'll be around for 50.
It's been a long haul.
Yeah.
It's been a long haul.
Just like I said, Dennis, I don't think I'm going to get to adventure number 2,000. Like I got to 1,000 this year. Because it took 43 years.
You retire, then you run twice a week, so you get the double speed.
So
there you go.
But Dennis, hopefully we see you for 30 and 35 as we keep on going.
Yeah.
I fully intend to keep the website going.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's fantastic. So we're going to rate in the darlings. Of course, please everyone sit there. Let's go in with over 80. That would be awesome. I'll see you all. It's going to be this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Okay, that'll be the schedule.
Thanks to everybody for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Dennis, thank you so very much for hanging in there, running a little late tonight too. And Jay, is Jay gonna hit a wrong button? No, maybe not. There we go. Let me set the rate up.
Not a single wrong button today.
I don't think so. Except for
I think you had a clean. I think you had a clean record.
Yeah. Except for crashing the stream the one time.
Oh yeah, you crashed at the beginning. Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't count. That was before.
Exactly, it was before you started.
Dennis, I had every link you gave me up on my second screen. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It kind of crashed.
That was kind of smart of me. Yeah, with all the other stuff going. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty, look at this. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, look at that. Up to 78, 79, right there. 85, 4.
Optical illusion there. I always thought that 44 was a countdown, but it's not.
It's my years. I just switched from 43 to 44. Right. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's it, Dennis. That's every year I change the logo based on the year, campaign year.
Okay. The first time I noticed the number there, I thought it was a countdown, and then I noticed right after that it wasn't changing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, now you know that I am a stickler for showing that every year when I change, which